Hey there, I'm Lacetia Walker, a mom, educator, wife, sister, girlfriend, cousin, advocate, a believer, and a joy seeker. And I'm also the host of the Joy-Filled Educator Podcast, where we're talking real talk, stories, lessons, belly laughs, and a whole lot of inspiration and joy. So if life's been a little messy, a little full, or just a lot, then guess what? You belong here. And I can't wait to share this space with you. Listen, you play a role in this too. Please like and subscribe, write a positive comment, then share this podcast with a friend. And let the countdown to joy begin. Hey, Joy-Filled Educators. Welcome back to another soul-nourishing episode of the Joy-Filled Educator. This episode is entitled Healing in Public, Showing Up When Life Gets Messy. And I'm your host, Lacetia Walker. Hey, y'all, real quick. Let me tell you, I received some superb feedback from you all concerning the last episode. I want to say thank you for your kind words, your encouragement, your well wishes, your suggestions, your prayers. I am here for all of it. A few of you actually asked for more info and even pictures from the last episode. So I'll be sharing some bonus content and some behind the scenes moments as well on my YouTube channel in the section entitled Joy-Filled Extras. Check it out if you want to see a little more. You all also had an assignment last week. That assignment was working on your gratitude and working and writing in your gratitude journal. Did you all go and tell someone in which you're grateful for or appreciative of how you feel? Oh, I know you did it. I have positive presupposition around that. And I know that you went and you took care of your extended learning opportunity. Nonetheless, each week, as a gentle reminder, I will also be posting a short 1 to 2 minute segment with your extended learning opportunity located in our Joy in Practice section on the channel as well. It will consist of a reflection, an action step, or maybe even a journal prompt to help us continue in joy and purpose between episodes. Don't worry, I'll be participating in the opportunity as well. Be sure to check out both sections when you get a moment. Okay, you guys, here it is. So today, we're actually pulling back the curtain. No filters, no fluff. This one is really all about healing in public and showing up even when life gets messy. Because let's be honest, life is not always tidy. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's chaotic. And sometimes we find ourselves standing in front of a room or in front of a group of people or walking into a meeting or logging onto Zoom with a heart that's still healing, a heart that's still heavy. But guess what? You're still worthy. You're still enough. And there's power in showing up despite all of our challenges and showing up anyway. There's power in that. Well, as I promised you, I'm not on this scene alone today. I have a special guest. Let me let her in the room. Her name is Valencia. And Valencia is going to be walking on this road with me today. Hey, Valencia, there she is.
Evening, everyone. Good evening.
Yeah. Yes, let me tell you a little bit about her. Valencia is my sister friend, honey. She is with me. She is a person who brings wisdom. She brings warmth and realness wherever she goes. Let's again welcome my sister friend, Valencia, as our special guest today. Valencia Kate of VK Speaks, please share a little bit more.
All right, so thank you so much again, Lacetia. Listen, this is my sister girlfriend, and anytime she calls me, I'm coming and I'm showing up, and I'm showing up as my authentic self because that is my superpower, right? So when Lacetia told me what this episode was about, I immediately said yes, right? Because it's very dear to my heart. So thank you so much, Lacetia, for inviting me here.
Absolutely. It is my absolute pleasure. Yep, I knew you bring the right kind of energy, Valencia, and absolutely show up as your authentic self as you do in all situations. So let's start with, what are you grateful for today?
So I'm grateful for a few things, but the thing that comes to my mind first is just I'm always grateful for the opportunity to serve others, whether it be students, whether it be staff or adults, right? My friends, my family. Anytime I get an opportunity to help pour into someone and serve them in whatever capacity to help empower and lift them up, it is it's definitely an honor.
Yeah. And you do that. That is who you are. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, like some of your ventures, some of the things that you've been a part of, and just your career, kind of?
So I have been an educator for going on 25 years. Very proud of that service to students and families. And I'm a mom of one very active teenager. So I know I have some parents out there that could feel me on that journey right now. The struggle is real. I am a consultant. I'm an advocate for all things equity. I know that word is not a popular word these days, but it is an important word. And the work that we do behind equity is also very important. So that's me. I'm a veteran, United States Army, National Guard, and and I'm a dancer, right? That's another thing about me. I am a dancer. So that's me.
Yes. She's a world dancer. She dances all around, honey. And stepping is your dance of choice?
Right, Chicago stepping.
Very good. So let's start with what I call the myth of perfection. We're just going to dive right in. You know what I'm talking about. The idea that we've got to keep it all together at all times, especially women, and super especially Black women, as moms, as daughters, as educators, there's this silent pressure to just be unshakable.
Yeah, it's like we have to be everything, all things at all times for everybody, and we have to be parents, we have to be professionals, right? We have to be articulate, we have to be, 10 times, better sometimes. It's just like we have to just juggle so many things all while, keeping a smile on our face and hiding our truths sometimes, and struggling in silence by hiding our truths, right, to the world.
Absolutely. But let's tell the truth. Perfection is a lie, and the pursuit of it will rob you of your peace.
So true. Say that again.
Yeah, the pursuit of perfection will actually rob you of your peace because the truth is, perfection isn't required. It's not a requirement to make an impact. Presence is a requirement, authenticity is a requirement, and vulnerability is a requirement as well. We oftentimes hear this little quote, I'm a strong Black woman, or she's a strong Black woman. I want us to stop saying that. I really do, because that gives people the wrong idea. It makes some people think that despite what we're going through, we're going to be okay. That we don't hurt, that we don't feel pain, that our skin is tougher than others. You can say whatever you want to say to us and it shouldn't hurt us, but by the same token, they talk very nicely and very quietly and very softly to others, and they honor their feelings, but they don't honor ours. And part of that, I think, is mixed up and hidden in that misconception that we're strong Black women. I think that it was Zora Neale Hurston that said, if you're not honest about your pain, then they'll kill you and they'll kill you and say that you enjoyed it. So yeah, we've got to stop that.
Yeah, and sometimes the most courageous thing that you can do, the most bold thing that you can do is just really be honest, like you said, with yourself and say, I'm not okay. I'm struggling, but I'm still here, right? I'm still surviving and thriving. But I'm not okay.
Absolutely. Valencia, that actually leads us into something even deeper. I want to shift into what it means to share your truth as a form of healing. Let's talk about that. And I'll go first. There were times, not this academic year, but the year before in my work life, where I was upset and I was still navigating some personal pain around feeling attacked personally, around feeling mistreated, feeling as if certain ones were committed to misrepresenting me. And I still had to show up. I still had to show up as a leader, to lead workshops, to speak on stage, and to support others. And that hit me kind of differently because I came from an environment where it was just the opposite. People looked forward to me coming. They were happy when I showed up. They knew I came as an ambassador like you, with my authentic self, ready to jump in as a servant leader. And if there was a challenge, I was there to help them to be successful at that challenge. And so every time, though, when I shared a little piece of my journey, someone would pull me aside and later say, thank you, because I thought I was the only one going through that. So sometimes we think we have to wait until we're through that pain to speak about it or through that experience before we can speak about it. But actually sharing that story while we're in it, it's really sacred in a way. It builds community. It really does build community.
And I feel like I have built deeper relationships with people by being vulnerable, right? And it's scary though, right? I know I'm always the one that's speaking up, right? I'm the one that's asking questions. I'm the one that's always kind of sharing, and people think it's easy, but it really isn't, right? But it's necessary. I found that it has been very necessary. And there are some times where I have shown up and been vulnerable about experiences that I've had. And, immediately afterwards, my brain, which overthinks all the time, is always thinking, right? And I'm second guessing and questioning, oh my gosh, how did they receive that? You know what I mean? What is the consequence going to be, right? Because it's vulnerable, it is scary, and there are risks. I mean, let's be real. There are risks sometimes when you're being vulnerable. There could be some retaliation. There can be when you're speaking up and you're being vulnerable enough to stand up, right? There are risks, right? But then after the moment passes and after I, do some more like self-reflecting, after I, align what I said to maybe a core belief of mine, I remember that, somebody needed to hear that information, right? Or it aligns with my core beliefs. So whatever comes with it, right? Because it was the right thing to do, right? So healing does not have to be perfect. Being vulnerable doesn't have to be perfect, right? But it is absolutely, necessary for growth is what I believe.
Yeah, I think you're correct. Well, I know that you're correct. And the thing is, when we share our truths, even the messy ones, we give others, like you just said, permission to do the same. And that's how we heal out loud. That's actually how we heal out loud. And that's what I love about our people. We are storytellers. Our stories matter. They really do matter, even though some people don't want to acknowledge that they do, or we've always suffered with that erasure. We're learning now about things that we invented and created and things that we were a part of that we had no idea. So again, our stories matter even when they're unfinished. And that's really the beauty of healing in public, not for attention, not for attention at all, or sympathy or empathy, but for connection, for community, and actually for release.
Yeah. So I have just an example, if we have a little time for me to give an example of being vulnerable. Do we have some
Yeah,
time?
absolutely.
Right. So there was a situation that happened early in my leadership journey where I had to kind of speak up when I felt like there were some staff members using some language that I felt like that could have been harmful for students, right? And this is my, my first year. This is I hadn't had an opportunity to really, get in there and build the type of relationships that I wanted to. But there was a situation where, again, a kid could have been potentially harmed, if you will, with that language. And so, I had to speak up, right? And I didn't compromise my value on there. I was being vulnerable and just kind of stepping out there, as a new leader. I didn't necessarily get the response that I wanted, but I still stood on what I believed was right in that moment. So, when we share our truths, when we stand on our values, sometimes it can be messy, right? But I feel like in the long run, people will respect you for standing on what you believe on, and it also motivates people or give them permission to do the same, to speak up when you know that something is not, right, or you just have to, speak up and take that first step. And that's how we heal out loud. That's how we make change out loud. That's how we grow out loud and empower others in the
Absolutely.
meantime.
Very good. Thanks, Valencia, for that example. And I know that particular you're standing up in that way. It actually came with some repercussions, right? So, with that in mind, how do you show up when you're not okay? You did that, and that was the right thing to do. It was hard to do. So let's get practical. How do we show up when we're not okay? Because sometimes you got to lead a staff meeting. Maybe after crying in the car, you have to still lead staff after um, bring it to their attention that that's not the appropriate thing to do. That's a harmful thing to do. Even if the majority of people don't believe so, you still stood on business. You stood on what was right. So how do you move forward in a situation like that when you don't feel as if you're okay afterwards because of the response of everyone?
I mean, utilizing different strategies. Sometimes you have to have another thought partner, right? And I know that, I have some people in my village that have, been a listening ear, allow me to problem solve situations. Sometimes you have to meditate. Sometimes you have to pray. I'm a believer
Absolutely.
that you have to consistently fill your toolbox of strategies, right? Because what worked yesterday or in that moment may not work in another moment. So you have to consistently fill your toolbox up with strategies so that you can, get through the moment.
Very good. I think those are great examples of what you can do. And I too remind myself that I can honor my emotions and I can still fulfill my purpose. And that might mean modifying how I show up the next day. Maybe I speak less that next day. Maybe I kind of turn my radio on loud up in my office. Maybe I'll burn my candle, or I oftentimes will put up my good vibe sign in my office space. And maybe I'll wear something more comfortable and listen to my Spotify and sing out loud. But it's okay. And we don't have to pretend as if we're showing up the exact same way every single day because we are definitely experiencing things.
Yeah, and if we're fortunate, we have a space where we can just say, "Hey, I need a moment," right? I know one of my previous leaders would say, you got to give yourself sometimes the 24-hour rule, right? Because, a situation may come your way and you may want to respond right there in that moment, and sometimes it's just it's better to just take that 24 hours to really try to reflect on it instead of just responding. So creating a space and hopefully with your coworkers or your colleagues, to just take a moment before
Yeah.
just responding.
I think that's great. And you, Valencia, you do as a supervisor create that space so people can come share, so I can come share, and so others can feel as if it's a safe space to really share our true emotions and be our authentic selves. So
Mhm.
if not, we can create that space for ourselves if we don't have another person to create it for us because we don't need permission. We don't need permission to protect our peace. I'm not saying like go to work crying all over the place every time something happens, falling down. And, we're not talking that. But we
Mhm.
are talking giving yourself permission to protect your peace and doing it with a safe group of people, doing it in a safe space. This is also a space where you can share, but doing it in a safe space because your feelings, your emotions, it counts, it matters.
Yeah. And I think people can generally feel when you are being real with them, right? Children can feel that, right? They can feel
Yeah,
that energy. I think it gives off a certain energy. Our students sometimes with certain teachers, right? They can feel the energy if someone is, being kind of pessimistic or if they're, talking down to, they can feel that. So people can
absolutely.
feel, that authenticity when we are being our real and true selves. I think it builds trust because when we're not being true to who we are, then I think, people don't know which version of you they're going to get, right? Because I,
Exactly.
right, you haven't really
Yeah.
figured out, who you are and comfortable with your own authentic self versus trying to share it with the world, right? You have to be comfortable
Yeah.
with yourself, right? And I remember I always would tell Lacetia that everybody has the right to be their authentic self.
Absolutely.
You have the
Absolutely.
right to be. And it's not so much for us to like shrink down so other people are comfortable. Sometimes people have around us have to build some capacity, right? They
Absolutely.
have to do some work to build capacity because everybody has a right, as long as we're not being disrespectful and those things, but everybody has a right to be their authentic self. And I think over time, you're right, it will definitely build, a stronger trust with the individuals that are around you, whether it be family, friends, colleagues, right?
Absolutely. And it's that kind of honesty that leads us into one of my favorite practices. That's something I call messy grace. Messy grace. That sounds like somebody's name or a talk show. So let's just kind of jump into it for a second. Um, It's messy grace is grace that doesn't require us to be tidy. It says, even in the mess, you are still worthy, you are still healing, you are still whole. Messy grace means showing up late sometimes and still being loved for it. It means crying in mid conversation and not necessarily up, not apologizing for it. I remember when you had a moment, you have so many moments, you have so many wonderful stories to tell. But I know that you're passionate about the work that you do. And sometimes it becomes emotional. You know, it does become emotional, especially when we're trying to share something that's best for young people or older people or whomever, and then you have others who are going totally against it. And that's the kind of grace that we need to extend to ourselves and to each other in meetings, in classrooms, at home, at family reunions, wherever we are. We need to try to start normalizing saying that I'm doing my best. And today, my best looks different from yesterday. It just looks different.
Yes, I can remember having a conversation with my team where I was in the minority on the team, let's just say that. And we were, having conversations at that time around, how do we improve some diversity strategies and this or that, things of that nature. And we were just talking about just that topic. Let's just say that. And during the course of that conversation, I got really emotional because, I spoke to my colleagues and told them that talking about diversity, right? Talking about our history in this nation, if you will, with racism and things of that nature, right? Talking about those things, it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable for me. Right? Because I don't want to always talk about the ways in which, as an African American woman, that I've been disenfranchised, right? The ways in which I see that type of thing being carried out to kids in urban areas and things of that nature. Sometimes, like, it's not comfortable, right? And I started to kind of, choke up about it, right?
Yeah,
Right. And I had to, reflect on that and that sometimes, that's the kind of grace we need to extend to ourselves and to each other, right?
yeah,
Staff meetings and classrooms and family, wherever, right? We have to be able to extend that grace again, tying back to being your authentic self,
yeah.
tying back to the power of vulnerability, right? Tying back to growth. I'm always telling the staff that, at the end of the day, we need each other.
That's right.
We
That's right.
need each other, right? And
Yeah,
so we have to be able to extend that grace when we're having real moments,
yeah.
you know?
And yeah, and that's not weakness, Valencia. That's wisdom. That's self-compassion. And another thing I'd like to say is that joy doesn't live in celebration, only in celebration. It lives in survival. It lives in honesty, and it lives in the breath between those breakdowns. You know, sometimes you're with your support group, and you may be upset about something, and they say something funny, and you can laugh right in the middle of it. So it's right in the breath between breakdowns as well. That's where
Yes,
grace, yeah,
yes.
that's where it
We have
sits.
to create those safe spaces for each other, right? Those safe spaces and
Yeah,
brave spaces.
absolutely. So where, where would we do this? I guess we could kind of replace some of our language. We could replace our language. So if we were to use "How's your heart" and use that to replace "Did you turn in your form? Did you finish? Are you done?" If we could replace some of our language, we can begin to build a culture and an environment that's a little bit different. That's more rooted in taking care of one another, more rooted in community.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's just if we just tap into humanity, right? We're all
Absolutely.
humans. We're all humans, right? And so being humans, we're not perfect individuals, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that sense, we have to extend that grace. And like you said, shifting some of the language that we use. I love the fact that my boss now, believes in that work-life balance, right?
Absolutely.
Supports
Absolutely.
work-life balance, right? Are we having
Absolutely.
lunch today? Like prioritize lunch, like something that little, right? Like
Yeah.
lunch, right? So it
Yeah.
matters.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a movement that we can also start. Do you agree? We can
Yeah,
continue. We can
absolutely.
continue that. All right, this has been wonderful. Okay, family, let's land this plane. I want to give you, before we leave the air today, your extended learning opportunity. You need to complete two of the three as it relates to your joy-filled reflection for the week. Two of the three, you don't have to complete all of them. The first reflection is, where are you? Where are you? Why? No, where are you pretending to be okay? I'm sorry, where are you pretending to be okay when you're really not? Another question that you can consider is, how can you give yourself more messy grace? And the last one that you can consider is, what truth have you been afraid to share that might set you free or set someone else free? And your challenge question, or not a question, but your challenge of the week would be, can you be brave enough this week to tell the truth to a friend, to a colleague, or even tell the truth to yourself? Could you do that? I think you can, as an extended learning opportunity. And we'll also have these extended learning opportunities again on another portion of the YouTube channel. You'll find those questions over there so you can review them. Before we go, Valencia, I'd like to ask you finally, what brings you joy?
What brings me joy? I was just, thinking joy, right? Because this is the joy-filled,
That's
educator
right.
over here, Miss Lacetia Walker. My son is 13, and what brings me joy is that any opportunity he gets when he puts his arm around me, or just reaches for my hand to hold my hand, because at 13, he still does that sometimes when he's not having a moment. But so that brings me joy. Like I said, my son putting his arm around me and just reaching to hold my hand brings me so much joy.
Very good. That was really nice. Carson is a ham. He's amazing. You all got to meet him on another episode. He is. So I want to say thank you, Valencia. Thank you for showing up today with your full self. I really appreciate you always, every single day, all day long.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate. Thank you for creating this space. You are inspiring me by
Oh,
setting your goal and
yeah.
accomplishing your goal, and I'm here for it. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We'll tell you later. She'll jump onto another episode. We'll tell you all the great things that we've been doing, the trainings we've been doing around the country, a training
Yeah.
that we have coming up in August, actually, together in Traverse City. We'll jump on and tell you some more about that. So, guys, remember, joy isn't only found in polished places. Sometimes it lives in the mess, in the healing, and in the becoming. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with another person. Leave us a review and tag us using hashtag healing in public and hashtag messy joy.
Listen and remember, healing happens right here.
Absolutely, that's my sister. And you don't have to hide to heal. You don't have to hide to heal, Valencia.
That's right.
So until next time, everybody, keep choosing joy, even in the mess. We love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.